I don't really know what I'm doing up here. Can't believe I'm standing up here. For those of you who know me, I sing, I perform all the time, but for me to talk, it's really scary. But I'm a teacher, so I should be used to it. But I'm not, so I can like feel my heart right now. Okay, so this past summer, during the summer I live on a lake, and I take my parents' pontoon out all the time, and I'm like the expert on it because I'm the only one who takes it out. And a couple summers ago, I learned the hard way that in order to start a boat, it needs to be in neutral gear. So it didn't work that one time. I thought I was gonna get stuck and not get back home, even though our lake is really small. But so anyways, we went out in the boat. It was my friend and I, and then two other friends. So it was 2 girls, 2 guys, and having a great time. There was not a cloud in the sky, and we put the anchor down. We were on Pelican Lake. If you've ever been there, never mind. I don't know. And, but my parents, we live on a little Pelican, so you have to go through the channel. It's really quite a far journey by boat to get to the big lake. So we're like 25 minutes from my house. Put the anchor down, having a great time. I'm drinking some lovely spritzer water with some other stuff in there. And then my friends are all, we're all having a great time. We're jumping in, we're blasting music. It's so much fun. And we just kept talking about how perfect the day was. And none of us had to work. It was perfect. Then we kept drifting, and I couldn't figure out why we kept drifting because the anchor was down. So I'm like, oh guys, it's, let's just pull up the anchor and go. So I go over, to the front of the boat, and I'm pulling up the rope, except there was no rope. So I don't know what happened to the anchor, but we lost the anchor. So then I'm like, okay, well, let's just drive the boat, to the middle of this area. And I go to start the boat, and it doesn't start. And John says, well, is it in neutral? And I said, yes, it's in neutral. I know to have it in neutral. I've been stranded before. I know it's in neutral. And it was in neutral. So then we thought, okay, maybe it's the battery. Or maybe it's the gas. We checked the gas. We were even pumping the thing, whatever. Didn't work. So then John jumps overboard, and he's checking all the wires. He's making sure it's all plugged in. He's an actuary. He doesn't know anything about boats. No, I don't mean that great. He's very smart. Okay, I did not mean that but he's from, whatever. They're from Chicago. They're not from Minnesota. And okay, can I have another minute? Okay, hang on. So he's overboard. And then I thought, okay, we're not going to get this figured out. My dad was working. He wasn't home yet. So I work at a resort, and they have boats and staff members that know about boats. So I called the boat people at the resort, and I said, hey, Steve, this is Mollie. Are you by chance on the lake right now? And Steve, this man, he walks around, no shoes, never wearing shoes, always has a hat on, and he goes, yeah, I got caller ID. I can see who's calling me. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Well, you know who I am. So, Steve, are you in the lake at all? Can you come get me? He goes, yeah, I'm out in the boat right now. I'll come check it out. So all of a sudden, off in the distance, we see this boat coming, and behind the boat is a torpedo full of kids that are staying at the resort. And so we're like, okay, I guess we're going to get towed in by a torpedo. And so Steve comes out, and he goes, oh, yeah, it looks like you're stranded. Are you in neutral? And I said, yes, I'm in neutral. I know it's in neutral. He looks, he goes, yeah, you're in neutral. So then he checks the gas, which we already checked, didn't, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'll go get you a battery charger. Or jump or whatever. So he goes away. But then we see him with the torpedo, and he starts doing circles for the kids to have these torpedo rides. So then he comes back to us, and he goes, I can take some of you guys in if you're ready to go. And I'll try to say this really fast, but Mike and John, the 2 guys, they're guests at the resort, and their family had a cocktail hour, and we ran out of beer. So they were like, and I said, it's fine, you guys can go. So the 2 guys on our boat get off the boat, and they leave us. Then all of a sudden you look up, clouds everywhere. The wind picks up, and Alyssa and I are just completely stranded in the lake. Then, didn't hear anything from Steve, so I call my little brother. And Jeffrey goes, okay, Mollie, I'm about to take a nap. I work in 2 hours. Like, is it in neutral? I said, yes, it's in neutral. And he goes, okay, when Dad gets home, I'll talk to him, blah, blah, blah. So Alyssa and I look around, we're freezing. We put on sweatshirts, and we sit down on the floor because it's too windy to sit with the table, and we decide to play cards. So we start playing cards because that's what normal people do on a boat, on the carpet. And then I was like, okay, do we have any food? Like, I'm really hungry. And we had some cut up fresh zucchini. So we started eating zucchini. Weird. I don't know. Then we stood up and I said, tag. I tagged her. I said, you're it. So weird. You guys, I'm not a child. But I tagged her and we start running circles and I started laughing and I was like, Alyssa, I'm gonna pee in my pants. Except I was wearing a suit. And she goes, oh my God, me too. And then all of a sudden, I kind of peed a little bit. But then Alyssa just, like a waterfall all over the boat. I'm like, Alyssa, there's a lake. Jump in the lake. So she jumps in. Meanwhile, off in the distance, we see my dad and Jeffrey pulling up. My dad comes up and he goes, okay, Mollie, hey, so do you have it in neutral? And I said, yes, I have it in neutral. And he goes, okay, let me check the battery. Nothing. Let me check the gas. Nothing. Then he goes, okay, he reaches up over, turns the key, doesn't start, obviously. Then he turns it and grabs the throttle and gives it a little wiggle. And it starts. And he goes, yeah, sometimes you just have to give it a little wiggle. It's a little touchy. I'm like, okay, well, let's go back. So then Alyssa and I headed back. But I guess if I learned anything from this story, I'm 24, but Alyssa's not. And it's all fun and games until you're 28 years old and you're peeing all over a pontoon in the middle of the lake. And that's all I got.